Hey, this is C&D channel. I'm Chris. This is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my post-fight analysis for UFC 187. Overall, I thought it was a really good card. Some of the prelims weren't that great, but the main card was really good. The first two fights, Fight Pass prelims were really good. So I thought overall it was very good. A very strong main card. Post-fight bonuses, Cormier and Weidman got Performance of the Night, while Arlovsky and Brown earned Fight of the Night. My picks weren't too bad, 7 out of 11. The ones I missed were Cormier versus Johnson, Arlovsky versus Brown, Natal versus Hall, and Covington versus Pyle. Some things to note, obviously Daniel Cormier, he had that post-fight interview, didn't say much but said enough. John Jones, get your you-know-what together. And in the post-fight presser, actually, Cormier and Bader got into a confrontation. Looks like it could have led to blows almost. Let's get started. Daniel Cormier defeated Anthony Johnson by submission, rear naked choke in the third round. The worst of Anthony Rumble Johnson really presented itself in this fight. Some of the best and some of the worst. It's like his power's there. The worst things about him, he gets really wild and reckless. A lot of times he'll just straight brawl. I mean, he won't be technical, especially if he gets his opponent hurt. He just straight brawls a lot of times. So there isn't much energy conservation there. It looks like he's always trying to land a shot that's trying to put away his opponent. I've always found it something of a question mark how he is off of his back, just because I haven't seen it at 205 or when he fought at heavyweight. And it showed itself here, and the guy is a white belt off of his back. And it's not tiredness either. I mean, this guy could not... The thing with Rumble is he could not recover guard. Once he was in half guard, I mean, he'd like hip out, and then it's like, okay, get your right leg through to recover full guard. Nope. It's just, he seems like such a white belt off of his back. And also, his cardio issues kind of showed up in the process of everything, where it's just kind of like, okay, you're throwing bombs, which wastes a lot of energy if you don't connect, especially if you don't put your opponent away. His relative weakness off his back, and he's not a guy that can come back from behind. He's not that type of fighter. He did floor Cormier early. He hit him clean often, actually. Testament to Cormier's chin and resilience for taking some of those hits, because lesser fighters and even great fighters have taken those hits and still have not been able to come back from that. Cormier, wrestling, top control, ground and pound, guard passing, chipping away and wearing down his opponents against the cage. Great strategy to use against Anthony Rumble Johnson. From here on out, I would say that Cormier, he could get Bader next. The money fight's going to be John Jones. Gustafson's out for a while. And then, right? And OSP is fighting Glover Teixeira. I have to think that OSP is probably in that mix, especially if he gets a win over Teixeira. I don't know if Teixeira's in the mix, though, even if he gets a win. It's just that I don't really know if he can... I'm not confident he can really compete at the highest level anymore. Don't know if he'd beat Bader in a rematch, for example. But we'll see. So, at the very least, it does make light heavyweight a little more interesting. A guy like Bader can be a legit title challenger. Whereas if you fight Jones, you're just like, oh, dude, he's going to lose again. A guy like OSP, hey, I don't think he beats Cormier, but it's still a competitive matchup. Gustafsson comes back. Gustafsson, Cormier, really good stuff there. If Anthony Rumble Johnson, he can fight the loser of OSP versus Teixeira. If they want to do Ryan Bader, Anthony Johnson, that wouldn't be the worst thing to do. 205 is not the greatest division. That's the problem. But yeah, there's still options for him. He still hasn't fought Jones, so that always makes Anthony Johnson interesting in that sense. But, and I can only say this in hindsight because I picked him to win. But now it's like, okay, in hindsight, this is what happened. His weaknesses that were prevalent in welterweight showed themselves here in light heavyweight. He can mask them against a lot of fighters, but then there's guys like Cormier who can weather that storm and grind down Johnson and eventually submit him. Next fight after that, Chris Weidman defeated Vitor Belfort by TKO in the first round. Yet another example of a guy who honestly looked like a white belt off of his back. It was very strange. Early on, Vitor was actually getting some pretty decent shots in. He got a crazy scramble. Once Weidman got him down, it was over. This was a strange thing because Vitor Belfort is actually pretty good. He's shown to be pretty good off his back. He's been there before and hasn't shown incompetence or anything like that, but he's in half guard on the bottom. No posture control whatsoever. He's just totally shelling up. And then, no sense of recovering guard, no posture control. So he just, Weidman just postures up, lands a big elbow, eventually passes him out, and just ground and pounds him. Vitor's answer to this is to punch back from the bottom. I was just like amazed in the worst way that Vitor just had nothing off of his back. No, even just basic white belt stuff. It wasn't there, the guy wasn't bucking or anything. I was just very surprised. But yeah, it was a great one for Weidman. It's just, his toughest test, Weidman's toughest test is going to be Luke Rockhold. You could say Jacare maybe, but I think just stylistically and just who's more in their prime. Rockhold's still young and still in his prime, whereas Jacare is much older. He's in his mid, going on to his late 30s, and has been fighting for a while. One of those two should be next. And then if Yoel Romero gets past Machida, he's in that mix too. And Yoel's a bit older, but he guy's an athletic freak. Just a genetic specimen, So you don't know what Yoel Romero could potentially do against Weidman, so that makes it really interesting. But yeah, Weidman versus Rockhold, that should be really cool. As far as Vitor goes, man, he can actually make a bid for 205 since it's kind of open with Daniel Cormier being a champion. He's lost to John Jones already. But if he stays at middleweight, there are matchups for him. He can get the loser of Yoel Romero versus Machida. Heck, he can get the winner of that fight. I know Jacare's coming off wins, but Jacare Belfort wouldn't be too bad. Mousasi Belfort, that was supposed to actually happen in Affliction at one time. Now would be a good time for that fight to happen as well. Despite these guys coming off of wins and Belfort coming off a loss, I still think that those are good matchups. Next right after that, Donald Cerrone defeated John McDessie by TKO in the second round. He broke McDessie's jaw. And I gotta say, McDessie has got a chin on him. He was eating clean head kicks, knees to the head, punches that were clean, and he was just eating them, man. His left hook was good. His boxing wasn't too bad, but he was taking a lot of clean shots. Fun fight, Cerrone was getting the better of it in the way that I thought he would. Just utilizing the kicks, getting some really good leg kicks in there, head kicks and whatnot. He'd use his hands when he can, get his step and knee. Cerrone's on an 8-fight win streak. And despite the fact that, it is John McDessie and not like Khabib Nurmagomedov, the guy has beaten Eddie Alvarez. He did get the win over Benson Henderson. He's beaten Edson Barboza and some really good competition. Jim Miller in that streak. He deserves the next title shot. Seeing him fight Rafael Dos Anjos again. He did get the third round against Dos Anjos when they first fought. So, the fight could be very different. But yeah, at this point, Cerrone versus Dos Anjos would be where to go. As far as McDessie goes, he's something more of a fun action fighter. It's just more mid to lower level competition for him. Preferably guys who will strike with him. Next fight after that, Andrei Arlovski defeated Travis Browne by TKO in the first round. I think this performance and previous performances kind of show that Arlovski's chin isn't really, he doesn't have a glass chin. He has a good chin. I think it goes to show that he was losing because mentally, it was more of a mental issue than anything else. It wasn't because he had a bad chin per se. Obviously, he's getting hit with knockout strikes. But sometimes, when he fought Karatanov, he's doing well. He gets hit clean once, backs up against the fence in a straight line, and just gets, floored and, knocked out cold. And it always seems like a mental issue with Arlovski. He gets hit clean once, and then it's he's done. Mentally he checked out. And even in the post-fight interview, it's I was thinking about quitting. And it's that's the thing with Arlovski. I think it's just a mental issue. Well, now that his head's in the game, he's getting good wins. This is a very good win. This is a fun fight, too. Oh my gosh. It was just one of the strikes that dropped Brown or wallowed Brown was a missed overhand, and then Arlovski with the same arm goes for a back fist. It's just. And then Brown knocked down Arlovski, and I thought it was over for Arlovski. Here's the problem with Travis Browne. He does not have a good fundamental game. And that has got him losses against the likes of Bigfoot Silva. He's going for wild stuff, and then his leg gives out. Well, if you don't go for wild stuff, your leg probably would be less likely to give out. Kind of a freak thing, but nonetheless, he's not fundamentally sound. And then when he fought Verdum, same thing. It's just, the guy he's just not fundamentally sound. He's working on his boxing. He's trying to, he tried to put a jab out there, jab to the body, but, he doesn't have it's still very rudimentary, He gets by on his athleticism and whatnot. He hits hard, too. He's got a chin, too. Brown just wouldn't, really go down and stay down, The fight was stopped when he was still on his feet. So he's got a chin on him. But Arlovski, he just has a much more fundamentally sound boxing game. He's been around the block for a while. He has veteran savvy. he boxes well for a heavyweight. That's the thing with him. He has good takedown defense. He has more, and he hits hard. More than enough to do well as a heavyweight. At this point, it looks like Arlovsky and Stipe Miocic are pretty much the next. One of those two guys is going to be the next contender for the winner of Velasquez versus Verdum. It's just one of those guys. And then, name value wise, Arlovsky is the better choice. Because people recognize who he is. And he's getting cool knockouts, too. I mean, knocked out Bigfoot Silva. And now he got this really cool fight against Brown. And TKO'd him, too, So, I would actually kind of go more. It's tough to say, but I would actually go with Arlovsky. I think a win over Brown is better than a win over Mark Hunt at this point. So I'd go Arlovsky to get the next title shot. Travis Brown, you can get Mark Hunt. The loser of Verdum versus Velasquez. Who else? You got Gino Dos Santos, Travis Brown, even though Dos Santos is coming off the win. That still wouldn't be a bad fight as well. So, there's a lot of cool fights for Brown at this point as well. I don't know if Brown will ever be a title contender because this is the second time where it's like, okay, you just got to beat that one guy to get the title shot. And, you lost to Verdum. Or you lost to Bigfoot. Okay. Well, you lost to Verdum. Okay. You lost to Arlovsky. Okay. It's like there's a clear mid-level guy that, like, Travis Brown can beat. And then there's a very unclear top tier that he can beat. Because you'd expect him to beat certain guys. And it's like, wow, you beat Josh Barnett. You beat Overeem, Oh, you lost to Bigfoot. Oh, you lost to Verdum. You lost to Arlovsky. So it's not like this utterly defined top level that, like, Travis Brown can beat. It's pretty much like he can beat some on some days and he'll lose to some on other days. Next fight after that, Joseph Benavidez defeated John Moraga by unanimous decision. I thought that Moraga was actually getting better at the striking exchanges, but on the ground and the wrestling is all Benavidez. There was actually some pretty cool flurries going on. They would actually, it was pretty reckless too. They were winging punches and like rocking, stocking robots at a couple points of the fight. It was a pretty fun fight overall. Benavidez still stakes his claim. John Dodson is ranked the number one flyweight, and then like obviously Demetrius Johnson, he's not ranked, he's champion, and then like Benavidez is number 2. In my opinion, Benavidez should be like the number 1 ranked. Outside of Demetrius Johnson, of course. Biggest problem with Benavidez, I have no desire to see him fight Demetrius Johnson a third time. He is getting all these wins. I think he probably beats Dodson. Maybe, because he gets reckless too. Benavidez gets really reckless, and that can open up strikes, fight-ending strikes for Dodson, But yeah, that's the problem with Benavidez. He's just in that John Fitch, Rich Franklin territory, where he's like the number 2 guy, and if the champion didn't exist, he'd be champion. As far as he should fight next, it's gonna be like maybe like a Makovsky. It could just be guys coming off losses, because I don't think they're gonna give him a title shot. Maybe he gets like a Horiguchi, just a bunch of guys who have lost to Demetrius Johnson. I don't know when Ali Bagayatunov comes back, but maybe, Bagayatunov versus Benavidez. I think they're probably going to avoid Benavidez Dodson and probably go with Dodson for the next title shot. So yeah, that's probably what they're gonna do with Benavidez. Moraga's kind of in that same boat too. He's kind of like something of a gatekeeper type at this point. You know, it's just he does. He's not gonna beat Mighty Mouse. He's not gonna beat Dodson. He's not gonna beat Benavidez, but he beats other guys and he shows veteran savvy. You know, he's coming off a loss. Hey, maybe some of the guys I mentioned with Benavidez can also fight Moraga. You know, Makovsky, Horiguchi, Buggy, Tunov. Who else is out there? You know, I can't really think on top of my head who else is out there at this point. Next right after that, on to FS1 prelims. John Dodson defeated Zach McCosty by unanimous decision. A bit contentious, actually. I gotta say, I gave Dodson round 1. No, I don't even know if I gave Dodson round 1. That's the thing. I think I gave Dodson like round 3. Man, I totally forgot the fight. Here's the problem with Dodson. And it's actually one of the problems with some of the guys that were on this card. Uriah Hall is another guy. He goes through really big fits of inactivity, where he's just standing there, reading his opponent and whatnot. But he can be very inactive at times. And yeah, he's defending takedowns from Makovsky and whatnot. Makovsky's still getting good straight lefts on him, but and yeah, that's the thing with Dodson. He's hard to take down. He's very hard to keep down if you do take him down. And his striking's good, but there are holes in his striking. He is coming off a layoff, so you know. Maybe that's the reason why he just looked a bit off. He still won against a very formidable opponent, nonetheless. Makovsky, one thing I always hurts Makovsky is he's just not a finisher. Guy just doesn't have the power to stand up to finish guys. And while he's a good grappler, I mean, he's not like... I mean, guys like Jose Formiga managed to out-grapple him and was probably more... taken to back and more I guess liable to get the finish than Makovsky. Like I said, that's the biggest problem with Makovsky. He's just not a finisher. With that said, I'd go Dodson versus Johnson 2. That's probably one of the best flyweight fights you can make. There isn't really a clear contender to fight Demetrius Johnson anyways. So yeah, I'd definitely go there. With Makovsky, you know, you can get like Moraga, Carriaso. There's good guys for him to fight. You know, he's still a very good fighter. I think he can eventually become a title contender, especially with how thin flyweight is. Next I thought Dong Hyun Kim defeated Josh Berkman by arm triangle in the 3rd round. Great to see Kim utilize his superior grappling. I mean, it was just breath of fresh air because, man, when I was standing, Berkman in the beginnings of round 2 and 3 put the hurting on stun gun, you know, and almost finished him. Berkman made some pretty bad mistakes, though. I mean, in the 2nd round, he would, like, you know, do really well on the feet, hit him clean, wobble him, and then he goes for a takedown, only to get, like, reversed, put in a really bad position, like a crucifix position for the whole round, and then lose that. You know, it's just, stun gun was a much superior grappler. I mean, it was absolutely obvious here. You know, Berkman was a better striker, you know, but stun gun, I'm glad he used his grappling here because for a while against like Hathaway, Tyron Woodley, Eric Silva, he was just brawling, and that wouldn't have worked against Berkman. Would not have worked, so he fought using the much better strength of his. Stun Gun's ranked, you know. I'd like to see him fight. It'd be a good fight for Stun Gun. Honest truth. Magny. I think that'd be a good fight. Stun Gun is ranked. He's a dangerous opponent, especially in the grappling. And still dangerous enough in the striking. So I'd like to see him test Magny. If not him, there's a lot of guys he can fight. The winner of Brown versus Means. Tarek Safdien whenever he comes back. You know, so there's good guys for him to fight. With Berkman, just more lower to mid-tier guys. Just more mid-level guys of the division for him. He's something more of a fun action fighter now. So I actually put Berkman against more striking type fighters at this point. Next fight after that, Rafael Natal defeated Uriah Hall by split decision. I don't agree with the decision, but Uriah Hall is a very flawed fighter. Like I said, he has bouts of inactivity. He doesn't throw enough. He's not a combination striker. Throws a lot of single strikes. And, you know, he loses split decisions. He lost it to John Howard, Kelvin Gastelum. He doesn't throw enough offense to justify him sometimes getting a win on the judges' scorecards. That's his problem. I mean, really. The skill is all there. It's just... You know, like I said, he's pretty skilled, you know. His kickboxing is good. His takedown defense is decent. His ability to get back to his feet is pretty good. But, you know, at this point, he's losing to Natal, who's at least kind of coming back up in the division. He's on a 3-fight win streak now, so he's going to get some bigger and better fights. So that's good for him. He should definitely be fighting, like, you know, the upper tier. Like, Robert Whittaker would actually be a good fight for Rafael Natal. Because he's come out that big win over Brad Tavares. But some of those more ranked 11 to 15 would be good for Natal at this point. Like a Robert Whittaker. Maybe a Lateez. That would be interesting, actually. And despite him coming off a loss, maybe CB Dalloway against Natal wouldn't be too bad. Uriah Hall just needs to fight more strikers or something. At this point, like, he's just... You know, I don't know about his staying power. You know, it would be a good fight for Uriah Hall. Costas Philippou. Because he was supposed to fight Philippou before. Now is a good time for that fight, and they both would probably strike. At this point, there's not much faith in Hall breaking into that top 10. I don't think Natal is going to break into that top 10 either. Every time he's tried, he's failed. But yeah, with Hall, you know, maybe however he stays around 11 to 15, but he's not breaking the top 10. It's just there's something missing, you know. Like I said, he has bouts of inactivity. He just doesn't throw enough offense at times. He should actually just fight more mid-level competition at this point. Next fight after that, Colby Covington defeated Mike Pyle by unanimous decision. This would probably be one of my more egregious picks, you know. I'm very high on Colby Covington, and I still pick Mike Pyle because I have seen him beat prospects. And he generally does pretty good against wrestlers. I found Pyle to be far too content off his back. You know, in the third round, yeah, he got his fake trying for that Kimura, ended up getting the hip sweep, or bump sweep, or however you want to call it, getting mount, almost getting that choke, you know, that was cool. But there's not many opportunities like that in mixed martial arts these days. You know, you're just not going to get those. A lot of times if you're on the bottom. That's just the way it works. Especially if you're getting, like, you know, ground and pounded. Covington at this point is a very good prospect. Blue chip. I'll actually just go so far as say blue chip. He has a wrestling background. He has a wrestling, the top control of the ground and pound. And it's just an overall good grappler. His striking needs a lot of work. The guy wings punches. I mean, he'll wing an overhand right and then go for the takedown or something like that. I'd like to just see him get some more cage time. Maybe fight some of those really tough lunch pail fighters, like your Court McGee's, Kenny Robertson. Who else? Oh, the worst guy a prospect can fight. Claudio Enrique de Silva. You should fight him because actually stylistically Colby Covington can probably take him down. But man, yeah, some of those guys are just so hard to look good against. And I think it'd be a good test for Colby Covington at this point. Mike Pyle, it's more mid-level guys. Sees him as a gatekeeper, Let him fight more prospects. He might beat some. He'll probably lose to some, but that's probably what he's best at this point. On the Fight Pass prelims, Islam Makhachev, I think it's Makhachev, defeated Leo Kuntz by rear naked choke in the second round. Kuntz didn't really have much. Actually, I wasn't too impressed with him. Defensively, he sticks his head pretty high up. Islam looks like to be a pretty good prospect. I like his wrestling and his overall grappling game, or his offensive takedown game. Trains with the right guys. Still needs some work with the striking, but he's still a prospect. Just give him more lower to mid-level guys. But yeah, I think of him pretty high on him as a prospect. And finally, Justin Scoggins defeated Josh Sampo by unanimous decision. I'm pretty high on Scoggins as a prospect as well. His Crawley style stand-up, it's fun. It is effective. He is a really good grappler too, actually. So, I think there's a level of competition where stand-up isn't going to be too effective. Dustin Ortiz kind of showed that already. But yeah, he should probably just fight more mid-level competition at this point. And with Sampo, 3 losses in a row, he should probably just get cut. Speaking of mid-level guys, maybe like a Ryan Benoit or something like that. That'd be a good fight for Scoggins. So that's it for my post-fight analysis for UFC 187. If you have any comments, just leave them below. That's it for MMA for you. Thank you guys very much.